Hello and welcome to another optics trade review. I have the second generation of the famous Swarovski DS 5-25 by 52 rifle scope here today. The first generation was released back in 2017, and when it hit the market, it was one of the biggest news in the field of sport optics at that time. So we are glad to see the second generation now available to the general public. Swarovski presented this second generation rifle scope at the beginning of 2021, so around 4 months ago, through a webinar, and now in April it's finally available to the general public, so you can already purchase it. If we go back to the first generation, the DS Gen 1 was the first rifle scope of this type from a premium optics manufacturer, and this is partly why there was so much talk about it, and there still is. And we already have a detailed review of the first generation model. I put the link in the description below. And in this video, I wish to go through the upgrades that the second generation brings at first, and then I'll talk about all the features that apply to both generations. I will not go in detail. I will not talk in detail about certain things such as zeroing and app use. If you wish to know more about that, you can check out our review on the first generation model, as it's basically the same. As I said, first I would like to go through the updates, and the most notable one has to do with the display, which is now even more customizable. I will just take out my phone and show you that in the app. So if you know the first generation, there is now a bunch of added things. We now have the reticle, so the secondary reticle, the holdover reticle, many forms of it that the user can choose from. Some of them are thinner, others are thicker. Then we can choose from 5 different wind speeds, as opposed to the first generation where you can only choose from 2. You can choose whether the alignment indicator is on or off, the windage mark also. And then we have a bunch of extra things that we can have displayed on the left side of the display. I have wind speed, knockdown power, and flight time. You can choose from 4 different things. You can also turn any of this off if they're bothering to you, if they're bothersome. So as you can see, we have many new things here under the section of settings. Other than that, everything else is basically the same. I will get back to this app later on, but I just wanted to show you what's new here. Moving on, let's take a look at the outer appearance of this rifle scope. If you know how the first generation looks, you can quickly mistake it for the second generation. That's how similar they actually are. And there are basically no differences as far as I've noticed, only the fact that this LED indicator is now more towards the rear than it used to be. It used to be right here. There was some talk when this rifle scope was released that the turret is now slimmer, that this section here is now shorter. But I compared this to the first generation, and I have to say that I haven't really noticed any differences. By all means, correct me if I'm wrong and you've noticed something else. What's also new is this tool here, which is now included in the box. This is basically the tool for zeroing. Another one is in here, and it's the same that it was on the first generation, but it's smaller. It's difficult to turn the elevation and windage buttons. With this one, it's much easier. So you can take this one to the range when you do the zeroing process or somewhere else where you do it, and it'll be much easier to handle. So this is only a minor detail. Other than that, I haven't noticed any notable changes. So the changes mostly have to do with the software, which has been updated to make your hunting scenario, to make everything better, because you can set it to your personal preferences and adjust it to different hunting situations. And that's basically it. Now, if we go to the things that apply to both the first and the second generation, you can still see that this is a big, heavy rifle scope, really long. It weighs more than 1 kilo. This is quite understandable since there is a sophisticated laser range finding system inside. It has a 40mm tube. Only a few rifle scopes on the market feature this tube diameter. But many mount manufacturers make mounts for it already. When the first generation was released in 2017, there were only a few, but with time more and more started making 40mm mounts, and now we have many of them. Of course, I'm talking about the version that doesn't have the rail. This one has rail, so it's mounted with the SR rail mounting solutions. But if you do not have this rail underneath, so if you purchase it without it, you'll need 40mm rings, and you'll have plenty of choice on the market. After all, Swarovski is not the only manufacturer of 40mm rifle scopes. There are others like IOR from Romania. Light transmission is only 83%, and if you don't know the theory behind it, you would think that this is a small number. But if you wish to have a laser rangefinder inside a rifle scope, you have to sacrifice some light transmission. In this case, this isn't so problematic, as long-range hunting is mostly done during daytime. But if you do wish to use this rifle scope once it's dark, there is enough space here in the front for mounting of various thermal and digital night vision attachments, also analog. If you do wish to put it on, although many will not go for this, as it's mostly used in daytime. They haven't made any optical changes to the second generation of DS, so it is still not on the same optical level as, for example, their Z8 series. It is still made in Austria, comes with a 10-year warranty. Even after the warranty period expires, you can expect great service from Swarovski. They are known for having one of the best service departments on the market in the field of sport optics. As far as the design is concerned, I have to say that I really like it. It has a traditional look, even though it's a high-tech device. Traditional shape of everything, the turrets, objective bell, this eyepiece part here, even though certain parts aren't what they seem to be. First, this isn't a turret, but it's actually the battery compartment along with the zeroing kit. So if we take this cap off, you can see that there is the battery and this is the zeroing tools inside. I'll get to this later on. So this isn't the elevation turret. The elevation compartment is actually here, and this is the windage compartment right here. The only thing that is what it looks like is this parallax turret here. As you can see, it can be set from 50 meters right here all the way to infinity. And what I like is that it clicks on 100 meters, so you don't have to look at it, and you can just turn it and you'll know when the parallax is set to 100 meters, which is where you'll most commonly have it. Okay, so what about the finish? Well, the finish is good, as befits a rifle scope of a premium optics manufacturer. I do have to compliment the smoothness of every moving part. Just by trying out all these movable parts, you can immediately tell that this is made by a renowned premium optics manufacturer. I've already shown you the DS Configurator app, which can be installed on a smartphone. Now, if you wish to pair the rifle scope, so the DS rifle scope, with the smartphone app that I showed you at the beginning of this video, you have to enter the Bluetooth pairing mode on the rifle scope first. You do this by pressing both the plus and minus buttons for the illumination control on the rifle scope simultaneously for 3 seconds approximately. That is until this LED starts blinking. That's how you know that you are in the Bluetooth pairing mode, and now you can go to the app on your smartphone and just click connect, and you're now connected. This is the calibration section, so this is where you input all the data, all the ballistic data of your ammunition, the zero range, the manufacturer, and so on. And then you configure some additional settings, such as the secondary reticle, so the holdover, the line thickness, the slots that I've talked about earlier. If you wish to know everything about this in detail, you can check out our review of the first generation model. If we, for example, change something right now, you will be warned that you haven't you have made changes, but you haven't transferred them to the riflescope yet. So you just click transfer now, and in a matter of seconds, the settings are transferred to the riflescope. And this is how it works. So it's really simple. And because of this, you can also do this quickly when you're outside in the forest, when you're on the range, when you're anywhere in the open. You just have to have your smartphone with you and you can quickly make the changes. Now, when you use this riflescope, now that the data has been transferred, you click this button and a holdover will be displayed under the center of the original reticle. I also like to call this holdover the secondary reticle because you can configure it in the settings that I just showed you, and it's referred to as reticle. And this reticle will be displayed underneath the original sender. So what you have to do is basically align this secondary reticle with the target. And if you enter all the data perfectly, then you should hit it the way you want it. The 5 to 25 magnification range, I think it's perfect for this scope. It makes it a true long-range specialist. And I think that this range works well with the Ballistic Calculator app. I already shown you the illumination control buttons. They're here on the eyepiece. There are many levels to choose from, I think more than 60, and you can adjust the display brightness perfectly based on ambient lighting. So if you have strong daytime brightness, if it's dusky, you can set it accordingly. What about the turrets? I already talked about the turrets at start. These are not, this elevation turret is not really the elevation turret, but a battery compartment for the CR123A, and with some additional tools. Now these are the zeroing tools, and this set is completely the same as with the first generation model. This is the tool that is used to open this compartment right here. Once this part here is opened, you can then use this tool here to make adjustments to the elevation. And I already said that it's much easier with this tool as it's bigger, it has a longer handle, so it is much easier to zero the rifle scope with this particular tool. Well, you won't always have it at hand because it's not stored in the battery compartment. I'm not a big fan of this system, so I honestly think that it's quite a hassle. They could have come up with a more simple solution for the second generation model. These tools can quickly get lost. You have to be careful. If it falls somewhere, it will have some difficulties finding it again. But I get the idea behind the scope. So you zero it once, you close this compartment and just leave it be. So this is a one-time process. You probably, when you zero it, you won't be touching these compartments for a long time after that. And okay, I understand this completely. And if this was, if they couldn't come up with other solutions because it's difficult on this rifle scope, I completely understand this particular solution. So how does this rifle scope work? Well, practically first you have to zero it, then you connect it to your smartphone, you configure it in the app, you transfer the settings to the rifle scope, and you're basically ready to go. As I said, more about zeroing and more about the app itself you can find in the review of the first generation model on our YouTube channel. The price for this rifle scope is 4,370 euros, and this SR model is 100 euros more expensive. It also comes with the Swirl light function, so if you tilt it sideways, turn it up and down, so these are the positions that you're not naturally shooting in. In these situations, the illumination will turn off completely to preserve battery life, and it often happens that you forget to turn it off, so it's a great thing to have, as the rifle scope is often stored in these positions. It has the 4AI reticle in the second focal plane, so this is the original reticle. The 4AI, we've known it from many other Swarovski scopes. It's really, really popular. But we also have the additional holdover reticle. I also said that I often refer to it as the secondary reticle. this secondary reticle acts as if it was in the first focal plane. So if you, for example, I don't know, use this button here, the holdover will be displayed, and then if you change the magnification, the reticle will get bigger in size if you increase magnification and smaller in size if you decrease the magnification. So it acts as if it was in the first focal plane. The rifle scope immediately gets the information that the magnification has been changed and adjusts the secondary reticle size accordingly. This is something I find really nice with this rifle scope. It's like a smart rifle scope. What about the scope of delivery? Well, I already showed you that you get these tools which are stored in here like so. So you have this small tool for opening the windage and elevation compartments, and this for turning. This is already inside the turret, so you can have it stored if you don't need it. This bigger tool for elevation and windage setting, and this thick instruction manual. No wonder it's thick. There are many different features and functions that this rifle scope has, and if you wish to learn about them in detail, you can take a look at this instruction manual. And of course, it's available in plenty of languages. Yes, this is it. So we also have the lens cloth here. We also have this bikini cover, which somewhat doesn't really do the rifle scope justice. But okay, so at least you can protect your lenses when you're not using the rifle scope, and it comes in a standard Swarovski rifle scope box in combination of white and green. Okay, I've come to the conclusion now of this review. I wish to go through the pros and cons in this section, as I usually do. And if I start with the pros, I want to talk about the ballistics calculator and the holdover display. If you input all the data correctly, someone who doesn't have much experience in long-range shooting can hit the target successfully. And I'm not trying to imply here that someone who hasn't shot on long range before can buy this and go long-range hunting straight away. It is important to practice on the range, of course, on paper targets, and of course acquire some experience with the scope before you go long-range hunting with it. That is if you have no previous experience in long-range shooting, of course. I like the fact that it's now available with a much more customizable reticle, so the Generation 2 really does bring more options as far as the reticle is concerned. You can alter the secondary reticle, you can choose what to have on the display. It's great because you can adjust everything to your own preferences and to different hunting scenarios. I also like some other things, such as the fact that it's available with the SR rail. Even the first generation model was released with it, not at start, but then later on they made it available, and we already sold quite a lot of these, so we're happy that they introduced it with the rail as well. I like the illumination, which can be finely adjusted, the fit and finish of this rifle scope, and every part here that is movable really moves smoothly, and this is really something that lets you know that you really own a Swarovski rifle scope. What about the cons? Well, the first thing is the turrets. It is still an inconvenient process, like it was. The solution is still the same as with the first generation. You do get this extra tool now, which makes it a little bit easier, but it's still quite a hassle, even though the philosophy behind it is that you zero it and then leave it be. Nevertheless, you can quickly lose everything associated with the zeroing and you will have problems. But okay, the weight and size as well, we do have to keep in mind that this is a high-tech laser range-finding rifle scope, but still the size and weight are disadvantages when compared to standard rifle scopes. And of course, optics. It's still not at the same level as top-class rifle scopes, so laser range-finding rifle scopes still need a few years to they'll get closer to standard rifle scopes in terms of optical quality. But other than that, there is practically no disadvantage that I can find. There is still, of course, room for improvement, but I would say that the DS is still a perfect device for someone who is into long-range hunting. And for now, Swarovski still has no real competition in the premium class. We're still waiting for the competition to come up with a laser rangefinder rifle of the same quality level. For now, Swarovski is still the king in this particular category. Thank you for watching. If you found this review useful, leave a like, subscribe. If you have any additional comments or questions, you can leave the comment in the comment section below. Take a look at our other videos, especially the video on the first generation model, if you wish to know more about the zeroing process or more about the app in general. Thank you for watching again, and see you next time. Take care. Bye.